Hey, welcome back to the most innovative shipping container channel on YouTube. And I've got a pretty good lineup of used 40-foot high cubes here now. And I have one, I'm going to call it a 2 or 3 trip. It was sold to us as a new container. And there's a funky little deal going on in the market right now where they are selling, quote, new or 1-trip containers. And you'll get a 2 or 3 trip or 3-year-old container showing up that's kind of beat up. So our driver wasn't supposed to pick up this 2 or 3 tripper, but they did. So I want to show it to you guys. So you got to be careful out there. And like I said a million times, you cannot buy a used container sight unseen. If you're going to buy one, it's got to be, you got to inspect it in person prior to purchase. These are all cargo worthy containers behind me. One person thinks they look okay. Another person thinks, they don't look that great. And if you're not happy with these used containers, basically you got to buy a new one. So let's flip around and take a look at these, and I'll kind of walk through what I see on each one. Okay, first one we've got here is a CMA CGM. There's the inside. Like I said, these are all cargo worthy. I don't mess with wind and water tight because they're such bad condition, in such poor condition. And so we might save 200 bucks if we get a wind and water tight here, but we're repairing a bunch of stuff half the time. So if you order a wind and water tight online, sight unseen, good luck. They are just complete junk. And for those who haven't been watching videos or done research on shipping containers, cargo worthy is basically still passing inspection by the shipping lines, still certified to go on the ships. Wind and water tight has been rejected. And all they're saying about wind and water tight is they don't leak water. But to be honest with you, half the time wind and water tight leak. So I just would never mess with a wind and water tight container. They're not worth it. You might save 200 bucks. It's just a waste of time. So here's the outside of it. I'll rate these 1 to 10. I'm going to say this one's like a 7. There are not a lot of patches or anything on it. So there you go. Here's a blue APHU prefix. There's a 4-letter prefix on these. I think APHU is Apple. About the same as the last one. I'm going to call that a 7. So here's the funky 2-trip, 3-trip situation they're selling right now. This is not what I would call a cargo worthy container. It's probably still IICL, which is your higher grade. This was probably new 3 years ago, and it was out doing multiple trips in the ocean or stored in a depot somewhere. But if you see cheap 1-trip containers, you're going to get stuff like this. This does still have the lockbox on the door, but this is, let's see how old it is. Yeah, look at this. It's a 2017. So this thing's like 5 or 6 years old, and it does have the vinyl floor like a 1-trip. But if you see a 1-trip container right now for cheap, you're probably going to get stuck with one of these. Like I said, my driver was not supposed to pick up this unit. We had a used container at the depot. We said, grab the used one, don't get that new one. And he came back with this thinking it was used. So once you outgate them at the depot, you're kind of stuck with them, unfortunately. So I'll see what I can do on that deal. It's not the worst thing in the world, but I'll definitely lose money on it. So here's another APHU. The outside of this one looks better. The inside has a bunch of floor patches. So although the outside's an 8, the inside's probably a 6, so this one's probably a 7 as well. All of these containers are really similar in condition. Usually if we have 7 or 8 or 9 here, a couple of them are really nice, a couple of them are kind of bad, and a couple of them are in the middle. But these are all really close. The inside of this one looks really good. A couple dents in the roof, but the floor does have a couple patches, but it looks pretty good. There's the outside. And another thing on these used containers, we deliver some, and then the guy will go, well, the handle's bent, or the door's kind of hard to open. And I'm like, well, that's a used container. I mean, if it doesn't have holes and it's not beat up, I mean, that's about as good as you can hope for. I mean, you pretty much should expect a bent handle or a door that doesn't operate correctly or some patches. And if you can't deal with that or take the risk, then you just got to buy a new one. Here's a HAPAG. The orange is kind of crazy, but this one's, again, I'd say just like a 7. And I forget what this Gator brand is. Oh, MOL. So this one's pretty nice on the outside. That's like an 8 on the outside. And here's the inside. So that's just a lineup of cargo-worthy high cubes that have landed like in the past week. That is what you can expect if you get lucky ordering a used cargo-worthy container. I think all these are probably average or a hair better than average. And back to the brokerage deal, people selling containers on Facebook. If you see an open side 20 foot for $3,500, it's 100% a scam. If they're asking you to send money before you get the container, it's probably a scam. And I mean, from my experience, you can't drop ship used containers online and have happy customers. So I think they just close their businesses and reopen when they get a bad review. So if you're buying a used container, you got to go look at it unless you're willing to take the risk and get stuck with junk. So thanks for watching, like and share.